Hello, welcome to Retail Field Report. I'm Ann Mazinga, and on today's Research Field Guide, we're taking notes on September's Retail Club Conference with its co-CEO and founder, Krystina Gustafson. Krystina, thanks so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself to the Retail Field Report audience because this is the first time that they're hearing from you. And I'd love for you to explain why people should be paying attention to your latest venture, Retail Club.
I love it. Well, first and foremost, I have to say how excited I am to be one of the first guests on Retail Field Report. So thank you so much for having me. We've known each other a long time, but I guess for the folks that I haven't had the chance to meet who are listening, my name is Krystina Gustafson, as you mentioned, one of the co-founders and co-CEOs at Retail Club. Joined Retail Club with the other co-founders who had previously founded events like Money 2020, Shop Talk, and Grocery Shop. Launched just over, actually less than a year ago, and launched our first event last September. And prior to that, I was a reporter over at CNBC. I love your question about why people should be paying attention to the venture, because I feel like this is how I spend most of my days is telling people why they should be getting excited about Retail Club. I think kind of the long and short of it is, I mentioned we are the founding team behind some really industry leading events. So we've been there, we have the chops, we have the experience, we have the network, but we are also not afraid to break things and try new things. And so we're really creating what we would consider to be a modern event that really meets people's needs today.
Well, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because you've been in the business, as you mentioned, of designing and setting the agendas for the most well-regarded retail conferences, finance conferences for 10 plus years now. What did you want to be different about Retail Club? What was like something that had to be when you were designing last year's event and now the second year's event?
So this is going to sound sacrilegious coming from a head of content. I think the way that we really think about content is that it is part of the experience and it is not the product or the experience itself. I think if you think back, 10 years ago, content really was what sold tickets to events. And of course, these days, I would like to think the fantastic speakers that I am confirming for this event will do so as well. But I think really the way that we think about this a little bit differently is, content has become somewhat commoditized, right? And I don't mean that this is a commoditized conversation, but it's accessible on so many different platforms, right? You don't have to go to an industry event to hear from the leading practitioners. There's so much available on research reports, news articles, webinars, you kind of name it. And so I think how we think about it is how can we really lean into the in-person medium to deliver a type of content that is not possible in a digital format. And I think for us, that means, really going deeper, leaning heavily into AI, bringing out some different types of formats, and really just kind of sprinkling in the human side of things.
Well, no, I want to hear a little bit more because, as you mentioned, content, yes, while it is more readily available to most of the people listening on this platform and others, what will and won't be the content that people will hear about at Retail Club this year? How do you make that delineation based on kind of what you were just talking about, like what's out there and readily available and what you want to make sure is featured on your Retail Club stages, Krystina?
It's a really good question. There's probably a couple of ways to answer it. I think first and foremost, what I would hit on is just the fact that we are considering ourselves to be retail's only AI native event. And so what we mean by that is every single attendee who is coming, every single speaker who is on our agenda, basically every conversation that takes place on or off stage is really focused on AI. And so I think that allows a level of depth that is not possible at some events that are just kind of scratching the surface of AI or maybe not retail specific. So I think that's kind of part one, is just kind of like making sure we're really getting into the meat of things and what's working, what's not, and having real honest dialogue. I think the other part of this, though, that we think a lot about is the formats, right? And I think, you can sometimes be a victim of your own success. And when you have a room of 1,000 attendees who are coming to hear from, the biggest speaker in the industry, in some cases, it can get a little bit watered down. And so I think what we really want to make sure that we're doing is providing an environment that feels really comfortable. The full event is entirely outdoors. People are showing up, as themselves in their sundresses and their, golf polos, not in just kind of like this like formal work attire. And so it really kind of breaks down a lot of these barriers. And to the extent possible, we're really trying to create content formats that are much more interactive, much more sort of small group oriented. So for example, our expert-led share groups are groups of 30 attendees coming together with a facilitator and having an actual conversation about AI topics like, whether you should have a short-term or long-term strategy. Is the brand website dead? What's actually kind of working in marketing today and things like that.
So first of all, I love that the dress code is sundresses and golf polos. That's not a question that I had thought about asking you, but now I know, and thank you. It does make everyone a little more relaxed when you're rocking a golf polo. So Krystina, then the question that I'm asking on all of this retail field report content that I think is really important to drill down to now too is, how do you think that Retail Club then is really going to improve the lives of the retail industry attendees who are going to join you in September? What's their return on time and return on investment? Is it the small group type of environment where they really will get to connect with people? Is that something that you think kind of tops the list, or what would your answer to that be?
I love that question. Yes, I do think the ability to really kind of have real discussions, whether it is the format that we were just talking about, whether it's the one-to-one meetings, whether it's, conversations happening over breakfast. We'll have a series of breakthrough experiences where you can get together in small groups and do everything from walk the beach to make mojitos together. I think really what it boils down to, though, is you get to curate your own agenda. So with this festival format, the way that I like to think about it is there's always something really interesting going on. And through our technology and programs, you get to select your own custom agenda of one. So, and your goals to get ROI and return on time from the event are probably going to look a lot different than mine, or someone who's, a senior leader at a large retailer brand might look a lot different than, the founder CEO of a really cool emerging tech startup. So the way that we think about this is the best way to deliver return on time is to actually give the power to our attendees to tell us how they want to spend their time and not have us dictate it. I think, a lot of traditional events, it's kind of like, okay, from this hour to this hour, you're in content. And now we're going to shepherd you to the expo hall to do this. And now we're going to shepherd you to the, XYZ, you name it. And you think what attendees want more than they do. And so we're kind of flipping the switch through this model and giving that power to attendees. So yes, some of the things that you shared, I think are the more concrete ways to bring that to life. But I think really kind of what I would say to anyone is just kind of, whether your goals are just to learn more about AI, whether it's to network, whether it's to meet solution providers, whether it's to recruit data scientists for your team. I mean, the possibilities are really endless. Or if you just kind of want to, commiserate a little bit about how anxious you are about the world of AI, like there's opportunities for you to do all those things.
I love that, like connection being really at the core and being able to dictate your own schedule when you have, 1,000+ attendees coming to the show is a pretty unique thing. Now, if we're getting down to brass tacks, Krystina, the question that I feel like we don't hear from conference organizers, especially that we should hear more about, because it is a pitch for people to attend. So if you were one of the Retail Field Report listeners, what would your kind of 3 key bullets be to sell this to your boss or your boss's boss to fund, your attendance of this event?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for the retailers and brands specifically, maybe the 3 things that I would point to are: 1, you will walk away feeling a lot more confident in your AI roadmap. I think especially with this event happening in September, which, as we will all remember, last year is when we saw a lot of really big news coming out about agentic commerce and some other AI specific initiatives. A really good time to kind of be coming together, gaining confidence and pivoting perhaps where you still have the time to do so. I think the idea of benchmarking would probably be number 2, and really getting a clear sense of where your peers in the industry are, as well as where consumers are in terms of adoption. So whether that's hearing from, research analysts, consultants, we actually confirmed the lead internet analyst from Morgan Stanley, who was like the first analyst on Wall Street to initiate on agentic commerce, that's going to be presenting some original research. So really just kind of really immersing yourselves in where the industry is. And then I think the third one that I am personally very passionate about is just this whole idea of leadership in an AI era. And I think there are a lot of different ways that can rear its head. But we talked about before, there's a lot of anxiety related to AI, whether it is your own personal job, getting your team involved, how you actually kind of, bring it to life in the organization. And so we think about this really as being all of those things and kind of the hard skills, how do you learn how to vibe code as a business leader? How in depth do you need to be? But also the soft skills, right? And how do you kind of even revitalize your personal brand in an AI world? Maybe some of the skills that you always differentiated yourself on are being done by AI. So I think you cannot underestimate the human element of this and how important it is to create that culture within an organization that's going to help them really lean in on AI.
Well said. I mean, I think the key call out there for me being, the benchmarking, being able to look at where other people are and give you as an independent, person in the retail industry, the ability to kind of figure out then what's the next best step for you and your organization based on the shared knowledge that you get from this event. So, well said. Okay. This is kind of a funny question, but let's be real. It's going to be the humble brag that everybody's doing from their sundress or golf polo on the beach. But I want to know what you think the event or moment at Retail Club that will be most posted on LinkedIn and other social networks as people are humble bragging about their attendance at Retail Club. What will it be, Krystina?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say at its simplest form, I think it's just that oh my gosh moment when you arrive on site and you see that it's just, it's not an expo hall, it's beach houses and tents. And we are basically sitting on a turfed space that is literally right overlooking Huntington Beach. So I think the awe factor, the fact that the entire event takes place outdoors is kind of the easy answer. But I would say in terms of just kind of overall most posted moments, I would have to go back to what we were just talking about in terms of every individual having something unique that's going to be on their own agenda. Sure. I laugh because I was at our sister event in Miami Beach. It must have been a couple of weeks ago at this point. And one of the activations that they did was a mojito making class. And so I just happened to be in the area while they're doing this mojito making class. And it's, maybe 20 people doing this and they're sitting at picnic tables and they're kind of muddling up the stuff and they're shaking the mojito. And these people are having the time of their lives. But it's a small group experience, right? And so I think for me, what's going to be exciting is seeing all these little pockets from the different experiences, the different meetings, and all the different experiences that are happening on site that kind of come together to form that full picture.
You never know who you're going to be making mojitos next to, Krystina. Yeah. I mean, you've mentioned that twice, and now I'm intrigued. If I'm taking a picture from my Retail Club experience, I'm hoping that it's at a mojito making class. Well, Krystina, thank you so much for joining us today. Most importantly, I want you to let everybody know how they can sign up for Retail Club, find out more if they're interested in attending and sponsoring. Let us know where to go and how to get in touch with you and the team.
Yeah, for sure. So you can just go to retailclub.com to learn more. You can also reach out to me directly, Krystina@retailclub.com. We will also be offering through our hosted program where retailers and brands can attend budget-free and receive up to $1,250 in travel reimbursement if they participate in that program. So definitely something to check out if you are facing budget constraints in the lead up to the show. But yeah, would love to have everyone there. So feel free to drop me a line and visit the website.
That's another good bullet to add onto your pitch to your boss or your boss's boss is
too obvious. I needed more tangible,
Well, thank you so much, Krystina Gustafson, the co-founder and co-CEO of Retail Club. I appreciate all of you. You have contributed to this Retail Field Report. And until next time, stay curious.